Robert's not here yet. Okay, this is Yes Orkney's response on a cold, windy, rainy night in Kirkwall. I haven't done a head count, but there's well in excess of 40 people here. We've got two speakers, and our first speaker tonight is Helen Woodsford-Dean. Very pleased to introduce her. So Helen, thank you. The steps are yours.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Helen Woodsford-Dean. I'm one of the co-conveners of the Orkney Greens, which is a sub-branch of the Highlands and Islands Scottish Green Party, so part of the Scottish Green Party. Thank you for your time. I was really anticipating a microphone, so I'm going to go into tour guide mode.
You can hear you.
Thank you. So the reason why I'm here as a Green is because the Scottish Green Party are also a pro-independence party. The core of Green policy is all about returning power to the local level. I'm going to keep this fairly brief. First of all, the verdict today. It was disappointing but expected. But we're now very much in a position of democratic deficiency. As Patrick Harvey said today, the verdict raises the question of how Scotland is legally even meant to make the case for independence. There's a very important principle at stake here, that Scotland's future must be determined by the people who live here. Excuse me, I've got rain on my glasses. Westminster keeps closing doors, but if this union is truly a voluntary union, surely we need an agreed legal route to decide on independence. Otherwise, we've got no choice but to accept that this is no longer a voluntary union. If we don't have the freedom to set our own agenda in Scotland, we will continue to be held back on two very key areas. And those are energy and Brexit. Energy, first of all. Scotland needs a nationalised energy supply company to make this most basic of needs affordable for everyone. This is especially vital in Orkney, where the irony of having some of the highest electricity prices in the UK when we produce so much energy ourselves is not lost on anyone, especially given our absolutely horrendous levels of fuel poverty. Westminster are never ever going to want to give up on their control over the privatised cash cow that is our current energy supply system. We can only supply and achieve all of this in an independent Scotland. Now, Brexit. Back in 2014, we were all assured that the only way to remain in the European Union was to vote no. But we were dragged out by the narrowest of votes by an English electorate duped by their proto-fascist tabloid propaganda. Rejoining the European Union will rejuvenate Scotland's economy by allowing us to access frictionless trade markets and much needed workers. Again, we can only achieve this in an independent Scotland.
Okay, next up we've got Robert Leslie. He just dashed from his work at 5 o'clock. Been a busy day for him, I know. And it's also his birthday. So what a birthday treat he's got today. Come on, Robert.
Thanks very much, Fiona. And it's my birthday. I don't know what kind of present that was this morning, but legal decision, important as it is, doesn't really change the fundamental role of every single one of us one single bit. It's merely made clear that we're not in a voluntary union. Our role as Yes activists is to persuade folk of the case for self-determination for Scotland and taking things into our own hands instead of suffering under further Westminster chaos in what is now clearly this involuntary and dysfunctional union. Just by being here, you've already shown that you care about Scotland's future and Orkney's part in that. The next part of the job is to talk to those who aren't so sure about the future and Orkney's part in that. I've taken heart, even in the face of the cost of living crisis we're suffering, for the conversations with folk who were unsure last time, who were frozen by fear, but now see hope. Many of them have made up their own mind in their own time, that there's a better future for Scotland as a normal, independent country. 3 years ago today, as Fiona says, Saturday the 23rd of November 2019, I was celebrating my 50th birthday in the middle of fighting a general election campaign. That following morning, I headed out on a fast boat charter to speak to voters in Rousey. One of the first houses I visited belonged to a couple from elsewhere in the UK who had recently moved back from France. They had chosen Orkney rather than their home country, seeing Scotland's direction of travel. I was hardly 2 minutes inside the door on that blustery Sunday morning, pretty similar to this actually, when the man who had welcomed me in was talking about when we win our independence. So hearing this for a couple who had moved here to escape what they described as a toxic post-Brexit atmosphere elsewhere, and literally putting their money on Scotland becoming independent and rebuilding their relationship with the EU was very heartening indeed. Rewind to the late autumn of 2014, post-referendum, and at a birthday party in Kirkwall. A couple approached Cara and I and told us that they were upset at having been misled by Better Together claims about their pensions. I was acutely aware that they were almost embarrassed to be discussing these feelings, and it was clear to me that they wouldn't be fooled again. Fast forward to the Picky Athletics track in the post-Brexit referendum summer of 2016. Somebody from Orkney's farming community came up to me as we were watching the races and expressed their concern at the vote to drag us out of the EU and for what is going to happen now, strongly suspecting that we'd been on different sides of the debate in 2014. I began to see the penny drop with another no voter. Back to the present, and recent Tory turmoil at Westminster has led an astounding number of folk to tell me that they've changed their mind and would back independence this time. But we, as activists here and across Orkney, must not take a single vote for granted in the face of what will be a massive fear campaign by Better Together 2.0. And I think we've already heard that on the airwaves this afternoon. We and other Yes activists throughout these islands need to be the voices of reassurance going forward, and for whatever vote comes next, be that the general election de facto referendum in 2024, or if the Tories see sense, they'll give us a referendum. Either way, it's time to make Scotland's future our choice. Thanks very much.
So as I said, does anybody else feel they would like to come up and say a few words, Steve?
Far too much corruption in Westminster. And it's not just this government, it's also been the last Labour government and the Tory government before that and the Labour government before that. They can all be something that's been going on and on. Scotland has always been a net contributor to the UK, but according to the Westminster lot, we're not.
Put you on the spot in this.
Yeah. Well, we're up against a government that's corrupt, that we never elected, and for hundreds of years have specialised in stealing other people's property. So if we get independence, we could reverse all that and spend our own money up here.
I think like everyone, although we expected it, I was disappointed this morning. But I think as the day went on, what I've seen among colleagues, among friends and social media is this is turning to anger. It's about the denial of rights, not just a referendum, it's about a denial of Scotland's rights, its place in the United Kingdom, which is shown now to be, it's dominion, it's not a union of equals. And this government it's all about rights. This government is taking away rights. If you're an immigrant, they're taking away rights. If you're in work, taking away rights. If you're a mother, taking away rights. If you're young and you want to travel, taking away rights. If you want to go and just get a job somewhere. And I think they've made a miscalculation this time, because I think that in the 21st century this sort of attitude will not stand, and hopefully the people of Scotland won't stand for it.
Well, I think the Scottish Government was absolutely right to take this case to the Supreme Court, and something that people might have missed in the judgment this morning is what they said about the authority of the Lord Advocate of Scotland to organise these decisions and to make decisions for the people of Scotland. So that's something to build on. I thought it was a strange thing for them to say, and a hostage to fortune. But this is really important, because this tells us, okay, here's the goalpost now. This is it. So it's actually cleared up a lot of uncertainty. We can move forward. We know what they're about now, and we know what we have to do. And I think that that's actually a very important thing to go forward. Otherwise it would be just all this obfuscation and smoke and mirrors about what we can and can't do. Well, we can now, and we'll do it.
This is a really, really disappointing day, when it's a decision that's been made, not lightly, but it's a decision that's been made disappointingly, giving us no option or consideration about to at least put a more modern argument. Going back to 2014 and the arguments that were put forward then is one thing, and it was a valid campaign. But things have changed so dramatically, and had we been given the opportunity to open these debates again, I think you may have seen people reconsider how they voted in 2014. I would call on everybody who is supportive of the Holyrood Parliament, and even those, but more importantly, those who are not supportive of the Holyrood Parliament and sometimes criticise it, I would invite them to see what legislation has gone through Holyrood, often promoted by what are ostensibly unionist parties, Tory, Labour, Independents, etc., Liberals as well. All deserve credit for a lot of the legislation that's gone through Parliament, which is the absolute benefit of Scotland and its population. Just think about things in a different way. Free tuition fees, free bus pass, you name it. And people need to look very hard at what Holyrood has done with very limited power, and is doing still, even though they're under huge pressure from a London government that is corrupt, and there's no suitable alternative, to be perfectly honest. But if you look at Holyrood, you should take pleasure in what's gone through Holyrood, and you should take cognizance of the fact that if we were in an independent country, you would benefit even more.
Well, I'm here because it seems to me that being denied even the chance to vote on something which is so clearly at the central part of Scottish politics at the moment is actually an imposition of pure colonialism. And I would remind you that even the Falkland Islanders got to choose which country they belong to, and that we went to war to defend the rights of people in a much smaller place.
To me, it's supposed to be about, equal balance of say and power and things. So I'm really just feeling a bit. I think today's decision will probably, you can feel it already, will really just stoke activism and the vote for when it comes. I would have hoped it would have been sooner, but it'll maybe be later. But this really is quite stark, and it shows
how unequal we actually are in this family of nations.
I think because the weather is really deteriorating and we've been here now, some of us since 5 o'clock, in the interests of independence we should perhaps all call it a day now so that we don't catch pneumonia and we live to fight another day. So I think we'll just maybe say good night from Orkney and from Kirkwall now, and onwards and upwards the fight goes on.
I remember that.